Hi guys, welcome back to LatiNation. Now what does synesthesia, homeopathic drugs, zebra finches, and modern-day vampires have in common? Well, nothing. But our next guest, Cara Santamaria, happens to be an expert on all four. Welcome, Cara.
We are definitely happy to have you. And yeah, yes, for covering all those things that are maybe not scientific, but
oh, they're scientific.
They are. But well, because hey, listen, I'm new age, so I'm in for it all. Oh, but the reason I'm happy to have you on this show is, number one, I've kind of rediscovered the science nerd in me. When I was a little boy, I wanted to be an astronomer. Like 6, 7 years old, I was fascinated by the stars. And then they told me that you have to like be good at math, and then I was like, all right, I got turned off. But now watching all these like science shows on TV and realizing that there's a lot of scientific discoveries being made, the Large Hadron Collider, the God particle, all those things, there's a reinvigoration for science. So can you talk a little bit about where science is at and why people should be paying attention?
Well, I think people should always be paying attention to science. You know, I think that we see kind of peaks and valleys in public opinion and in public kind of perspective of science. But, you know, needing to be scientifically literate is not new. But we do have kind of, I think what the real transition is that right now, it's kind of becoming cool to be into science. There's sort of like a trend to it, you know, with TV shows like you mentioned, like The Big Bang Theory, and just a lot of kind of geek culture with the internet, obviously, and Reddit and all of these places where we science nerds can unite and kind of geek out. I think that you're seeing a reinvigoration in science. But the truth is, historically, up to today, in the future, it's really important that the general public be scientifically literate.
Now, what's the biggest discovery in the past 10 years that you've been really excited about?
Oh, 10 years, that's a
well, let's go the past couple of years. Let's go since, I mean, is it this Large Hadron Collider making little black holes with subatomic particles? What are you into?
Well, okay, so my background is in neuroscience. I'm obviously into a lot of things in science. I would say that one of the pieces that I did for my column, Talk Nerdy to Me, on HuffPost Science, that got the most press was when the Large Hadron Collider, when in Geneva, they kind of announced that they had found the Higgs boson, which you mentioned, was the God particle. And it's because it was so hard to find, but they were finally able to find it, and that got a ton of press because people have been looking at it for so long.
Can you explain what it is?
They kind of always knew that it was there, they just hadn't found it yet. If we weren't able to find it, we would have had to rethink the whole standard model, but they finally were able to find it, and so now they, you know, what they thought was kind of confirmed. I guess that's confusing. Watch my video. I equate it to like a bomb squad looking for a wire and a bomb and a giraffe's neck. It all gets very complicated, but it comes together. I
remember the giraffe's neck bit. Yeah. And that's the wonderful thing about your videos is that you contextualize it and these explanations in such a way that people like myself can understand what the heck you're talking about, which I love, and it makes it more accessible to people who aren't necessarily, you know, don't use all the scientific language and verbiage and terminology.
Well, and I think that's an important point as a science communicator. You know, I have a lot of friends who are in the field. I know a lot of journalists, and we go to conventions and we talk about the best approaches and best practices. And for me, I think what's important is to, I always say, don't underestimate the intelligence of the people reading your column or watching your videos, but do underestimate their vocabulary, because when it comes down to it, a big part of being a trained scientist is knowing what certain words mean. I mean, a lot of what you're learning is terminology, and the reason we use that terminology is because we can say the same thing in a much shorter space. The more big words you use, the less filler words you have to use. Right. But the truth is the general public can't be expected to know all of those big words because they're specialized in their field. You know, everybody has their own job that they're working at really hard day in and day out. And you can understand scientific concepts and you can be scientifically minded without having that whole vocabulary. And so part of my job is honestly to take something that was really densely written, that has a lot of complicated terms in it, and just translate it. It's basically just another language, and I'm translating
So you're basically like the Bill Nye for the 18 and over crowd.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Bill Nye sans bow tie.
You're going to underestimate my intelligence after I make this point and ask this question, but is there a point where science and spirituality are going to meet?
You know, I think that there is a lot of spiritual component to science. You know, when I look at the cosmos, when I watch Carl Sagan, and when I listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson, I get goosebumps. When I think about my place in the universe, and when I think about the kind of elegance of the universe, I have what I would consider my own kind of spiritual, I don't like the word spiritual, I don't believe in God, but it's my own kind of emotional experience. But I do think that we have to be careful when we try to take scientific principles and apply them to places where they don't actually make sense to be applied. And when you can think scientifically about the world around you, I think that you can experience those, you know, goosebumps.
I like that. I like that. Now keep it right here. This is going great. We're going to come right back with more Cara Santa Maria, only on LatiNation.
Coming up,
I auditioned for American Idol. I think I was 16. I sang...
Crazy?
No, Kiss from a Rose.
Kiss from a Rose on the...